Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Laquita Parks, and I am the host of My Heart on Pages. And I am super excited to be here today. Look at all these people. Look at all these people, all these beautiful women as my guests today. Now, you guys know I typically have maybe one guest or two guests, but today I have a whole room full of guests. And these are the authors of Our Journey from Girls to Women. I am so excited to be the visionary, the publisher, a contributing author too, y'all, because I had to write a chapter for this book too, for this project. And today, this is our first meeting, one of many. And I'm looking at the faces, and the faces are absolutely beautiful. Now, see, y'all know I read expressions, right? I'm looking at the faces and I'm looking at them. I'm looking at some. And Miss Carolyn Coleman, I love you, love you, love you. She has some expressions, y'all. That's my favorite. Carolyn is one of my favorite people. I am so glad for you guys to be here. So what I'm gonna do is first of all, again, I'm Laquita Parks, the host and the CEO and founder of PayPro-V Publishing. And PayPro-V is pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress, and without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. And you know what? I love I'm all about the stories. I'm all about the stories. So I want to know why write a book? Why is my story important? Well, there are some people who think I don't have a story. My story is not important. Nobody will want to hear about my story. Oh, I haven't been through anything. Every story is not a trauma story, but every story can make a difference in a person's life. And I'm excited that you guys said yes to this project. So, without further ado, I'm going to go around and I want you guys to introduce yourself. And I want you, first of all, to tell us who you are and where you're from, and tell us the title of your chapter. And then we'll come back to you and dive deep into the conversation. So, I'm going to go around with who first on my screen. So, first on my screen is Dr. Patricia Lawton. And you can come off mute. You're on mute. Can you find the mute
All right,
button?
there it is.
There you go.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm Dr. Patricia Lawton, and I'm currently living in Columbia, South Carolina. And it is a pleasure to meet all of you. This is this is this has been a ride. This has truly been a ride.
Well, thank
And this has
you so
been
much.
something I've been wanting to do for a number of years, but just didn't have the courage to do it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Did you guys get affected a lot by the storm? You're in South
We had
Carolina?
lights out and trees down.
Okay, okay, good. Glad you guys were safe. Very good. All right, Miss Mary, you're next on my screen.
Well, hello, my sisters in Christ. How are you all this evening?
Good.
And I am hail from Cordele, Georgia, the watermelon capital of the world. And my story is a long story. My chapter is Middle Child, Middle Daughter. And mine is a long story, but it's motivated me not to write because I've been writing for some time, but to do my memoirs. So you're seeing my first quarter of my life in uh, from our journey from girls to women. That's the first quarter of my life.
Wow.
So you know that's more to come.
And I love the story. Love the story. Next, thank you, Miss Mary. Next on my screen is Miss Cecilia.
Good evening, beautiful ladies. So glad to be here with you. My name is Cecilia Myers. I am from Chicago, Illinois, South Side.
Southside.
South Side.
Some more Chicagians in the house.
All
All
right.
right.
And the title of my chapter is Throughout My Journey, God Was There.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, and that was just what I just felt throughout, and came to that realization looking back over it, I was like, yeah, he was there in this, he was there in that, he was there. So yes.
Yes, I love it. And listen, and I'm gonna be telling on myself. So how do I know Miss Cecilia? We share these little people together. We share these little bundles of joy. And man, I tell you, they are something. So we are grandparents. We share
Yeah.
grandchildren. So
Yeah.
yes, such a beautiful, beautiful person. She is such, it's just, you know what, my daughter did well. She did well. She did
Well,
well.
it is truly a blessing to have you as part of our family. It is
Oh,
truly a blessing. So
we
yes.
love it. Y'all know when I say I be going on Sundays to eat, when I was, remember that? This her house. It was her house. Her house. Her house. That's the good food house, y'all. They know Cecilia. They know the good food house. That's the good food house. All right. All right. Thank
Blessing.
you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Shanita, you're next on my screen, dear.
Okay. I'm Shanita Dawson Agwoke. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, but I currently live in Clarksville, Tennessee. The title of my chapter is called Trauma Tried to Take Me. And I had been working on this for a long time. And people kept saying, oh, you need to tell your story, tell your story. And one day a pastor said, don't tell your story until God tell you to tell your story. I was on a birthday vacation and Laquita had text me. I said, I already know what you want. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna be obedient. And I like immediately wrote it on August the 17th. So in one
Yeah.
day.
Yes, yes. Listen, when you guys get this book, you guys are going to be blown away. Shanita, so how I know Shanita is my cousin. Her dad and my grandmother raised her dad, really. So I call him Uncle Cousin. And just a quick little story. Shanita has an amazing story. And we talked, and she said, well, I want to write my story, but I know you and my dad are close, and I don't want to offend you. And I said, don't worry about me. Write your story. Your story is your story. And when I read her story, it almost brought me to tears. And she said, you encouraged me to write my story. Listen, for those of you who are listening to this, and you'll listen to it later, whenever you listen to it, your story is your story. There are going to be people who are going to tell you, don't share your story. You don't need to tell people about your story. Keep it to yourself. That's your story. You have the right to share your story because your story is freeing for you and it is healing for somebody else. So it's a twofold healing. I'm a living witness of that. So tell your story. Don't, there are going to be villains in our story. You might be the villain in somebody's story, but tell your story. Share your story. I believe in that 100%. So thank you, Shanita. Miss Jewel.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jewel L. Howard, and I'm originally from two parts of Illinois, from Kankakee and Chicago, and I currently am in Georgia. The title of my book, my story is The Making of a Gem. So thank you so much, Laquita, for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Listen, Jules' dad was in Our Journey from Boys to Men, and Cecilia's son, Jeremy, was in Our Journey from Boys to Men. So, and Shanita's dad, Our Journey from Boys to Men. So it feels like this is kind of full circle. It's just, I'm so excited. Listen, when I tell you, Jewel, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I know you guys haven't shared, so so there's sisters in the room. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I'm super excited. I feel like a kid in a candy store. Okay. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So Denise, you are on my screen next. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Did I unmute it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone, and I thank you for allowing me to come into this sisterhood. I feel this is a family that I was anointed to be a part of many, many years before, and I finally met my sisterhood family. So I'd like to say thank you for that.
Awesome.
I am originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I was blessed to leave Detroit at in my about 19 years old and travel to California. There was a still small, quiet voice that told me, leave now and go to California. And that had a whole lot to do with, I was born around the Motown craze, and I became a part of it. I loved Motown so much that in high school, I was wearing feathers and gloves and all the above. So when Motown left Detroit and moved to California, I knew I had to go, so I went. The title of my story is called Born Fabulous.
Yes.
Born Fabulous simply means that there have been episodes in my life that have all led up till today, where I started a movement a year ago, and it's called Fabulously Aging Backwards. With that movement, it was poured in my spirit because through the years, interacting with, I've had a few tragedies that have happened in my life, which one of them was basically losing my parents, and then getting over that. All of these things led me to where I am today. So one thing that I didn't share within my story was I'm in a book called The Contribution of Black Women in the Making of America. So in 1982, the author, Marion W. Davis, when I called and asked for another book, she asked me, would you please share my legacy? I looked for her, and for 40 years, I have just been basically scared because I felt like to follow behind her footsteps, I felt I was never big enough. But finally, I got the opportunity to share my story. I looked for her for 40 years. I found her 6 months before the pandemic here in Georgia, in a nursing home. I went to the nursing home and filmed the documentary of her and her life story. When I went there, she was 93. She passed away a year later. She brought 10 women to the table, all over 90, and they all wanted me to do their story.
Wow.
It was the most heartfelt to just be in her presence after that many years. So I'll end it there.
Wow.
There's a lot to my story.
Wow. Wow. Well, you need to add some of that. I'm just saying. Listen.
Okay, I'll add that.
Denise, when I was reading your story, girl, I felt like I was on Rodeo Drive.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute.
Thank you.
From the beginning of the story, you guys, and oh my goodness, I'm just so excited. Listen, if you're listening to this replay, to the whenever you're listening to it, you have to purchase the book. And these stories are absolutely fabulous. They are fabulous. So you have to hear all about how Denise ordered a cigarette machine when she was what, 8 years old?
Yes.
So she was like, hey, if they're gonna buy cigarettes and send me to the store 7, 8, 9 times a day, they might as well buy them from me. Okay. She was 8 years old. Loved it. These are the stories that's in this book. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Denise. We'll come back to you. Jacinta, you are next on my screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacinta Beeson. Jewel is my sister, so we're from Kankakee, but I grew up in Chicago. The title of my story is Unsolicited Advice. And I want to thank my sister and Laquita for inviting me. My sister actually encouraged me to do it. And then Laquita, your words of just telling your story really helped me to just release all that I have felt, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Oh my goodness, unsolicited advice. I love it. I love it. I'm serious. I'm not just saying this. I am serious. These stories, your stories are amazing. They are amazing. I'm thinking about Cecilia's story, and when I read her story, I was like, oh wow, I didn't know this. I didn't know this, and we see each other all the time. But it's different when you're telling your story and you're going back down memory lane and you're just talking, and then when you're really reading somebody's story, when you're, you know, because you guys have poured your hearts out. You put your heart on pages, and I'm grateful for that. And this is going to benefit you guys greatly. So I promise you, there are people waiting on the other end of your story. They don't know it's your story that they're waiting for, but when they get it, they're going to be like, oh, wow, this is just what I needed, because your stories are going to mimic their stories, but you're on the other side of it. And some of them don't know how to get there. They don't even think that they can. So they don't think that they can get through the hell that you guys have already lived through and are on the other side of it. So I'm grateful. Ninotchka, you're on mute, babe doll.
All right. Hello, ladies. Good evening. I'm actually multitasking as we're speaking, so I'm driving. But my name is Ninotchka Phillips, and I actually did not put a title to my chapter, but it is I Go On. It's short but meaningful is how I look at it. I go on because I feel like that's what I did to get through all of the trials and tribulations I've gone through, and I'm still getting through them as long as I'm here on this earth, this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful earth. But I thank you, Laquita, for inviting me to this this whole book. I can't wait to see the results and see what it brings.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ninotchka is in Arkansas, right?
I am in Fayetteville, Arkansas, yes.
Arkansas by way of Atlanta, by way of Memphis.
By way of Memphis. Born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, dear. All right, Messiah, you are next up on my screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am Macia Bomani. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia, but just recently moved to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a mother of 4 biological children, but a mom to many. I'm a school teacher. And the title of my part to the book is From Pieces to Peace. And the reason why I chose that is because for as long as I can remember coming back, you know, from being a little girl, my life has been little pieces, you know, little things that happened to me that were to bring me to this place where I am now finally gaining a sense of peace. And so all of those little pieces are coming together, and I'm looking forward to retirement and, you know, just really, really having peace. And it's the type of peace that they talk about in the Bible that says, you know, it's a peace that, you know, most don't understand, you know, that surpasses understanding. So that's where I am on my way to. And I'm appreciative for Laquita for asking me to be a part of this book. And so, ladies, from what I'm hearing, all of us, you know, have a wonderful story. And like she said, it's going to help so many different people in so many different ways. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My high school classmate. Thank you. Thank you. And her son is in our Journey from Boys to Men Part 2. And he has an amazing story. Is it Asperger's?
Oh, yes, he has autism, which is a form of it is Asperger's.
And he tells his story of how he's been treated and navigating that. And this young man has an amazing story. And it's a beautiful story, but it's heartbreaking because we don't treat people right, even when we know that they have some specialties, or we do not treat them right. So I'm excited for his story as well. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, Tracy. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Carolyn. Please come on camera. Tracy, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Miss Laquita, the entire panel. Thank you for receiving me. I have not submitted my piece as of yet. Actually, while I was sitting here, I was thinking, what can I call it? What can I call it? My piece. And there's been a song dancing in my head like this whole weekend. Kendrick Lamar's They're Not Like Us. So my piece is called I'm Not Like Them. And I'm just brainstorming some things. I'm thinking about my childhood as a little girl growing up in Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs! And I lived in Atlanta for almost 30 years. And then I got divorced in 2019 and moved to Vegas, came back, and now I reside in Fort Mitchell, Alabama, which is just across the river of Columbus, Georgia. Special needs teacher, been teaching special needs going on 8 years, teacher by trade for almost 25 years. So I understand what Miss Bomoni, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I understand what she's talking about with, and what Miss Laquita said about how to treat people. And sometimes it's hard to treat people well and nice because the world can be so mean, even your own family members, which you'll read about that in my piece. I'm not like them. So I'm excited to be part of yet another anthology, which I know is going to become a bestseller. So I'll be a 2-time best-selling author. And I have several books that are in the works. As right now, Miss Laquita is publishing my second installment called How William Met Mommy. The first one was called How William Got His Wings, and it was about one of my students who got his wings. And the second installment is How William Met Mommy, and it's about how William, he's a beautiful angel in heaven, and he welcomes my mother into heaven. Beautiful story, beautiful, beautiful story. And yeah, that's who I am. I'm a mother, 2 girls, 14 and 9. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
pretty much it.
Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy has some amazing books coming out, you guys, coming soon, really, really soon. So the second one, How William Met Mommy, oh my goodness, it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you, ma'am. Desiree, you're on my screen next. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Tell us who you are and where you're from, and what's your chapter title?
I'm Desiree Williams. I'm originally from upstate New York, Rockland County. I moved here during high school. So I guess you would say I'm from Atlanta now. But I have one son. As a matter of fact, today's his 21st birthday.
Happy
And
birthday.
he's in the military just like I was, and he's in San Diego, California. So I've yet to talk to him. I hope he's being careful. 21, you know what that comes with. But anyway, yeah, and my chapter, I don't know if we settled on a chapter name, but I think it was called When I Asked God Why.
When I ask God, When I Ask God Why.
Yeah, I think that's, When I Asked God Why. And just basically a short version of, life in the military and asking God some questions. And sometimes you just have to sit and wait and find out why you go through the things that you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. I love that. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. Carolyn Coleman, you're next on my screen. You're muted.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Carolyn.
I apologize. I had to rearrange some furniture and forgot I was on camera. So
I didn't know it. I didn't know it. That's okay.
I looked up and just saw my arm running across the camera, so I tripped out. But anyway, I haven't really settled on a title. I hope you can see me, LaQuia, because I think I've done
Okay.
something I shouldn't have done.
No, we can see you, but tell us where you're from.
Okay, I am. I just when I saw that, I tripped out. But anyway, I am from Alabama, and I've been here all my life. I like it here. That's just me. I'm a registered nurse, have been for over 38 years. I was an LPN for 5, and I started writing, I think, in 18, if I have that correctly. I started writing fiction, and then I met some wonderful people on a platform, and that's how I got started with that. That's when I met Laquita and a few more ladies. But then I've done some anthologies, and they are #1 bestsellers, and I'm really appreciative of that, because whoever would have thought, that would have happened, especially to me. Writing my fiction is, kind of like rom-com, and these anthologies are Christian nonfiction. So, that's a switch, but it's been a good switch. I still dabble a little bit. I'm still dabbling on some projects. And here I am now, from girls to women. And I don't have a true title to my story, but so far I think I grew up is basically what it was. I enjoyed being a kid. I enjoyed running and climbing and jumping, and I did all that, playing in the mud. That was just fun to me. I don't know about anybody else, but that's okay. We all have different stories. I'm not saying everything was peaches and creams, because it was not. But growing up, you learn some lessons. Kind of hard, kind of soft, but you learn some lessons. But it's okay. It's okay not to give too much more away. That's basically it. Did you have any more mandatory questions for us,
No,
LaQuita?
no more mandatory questions, Carolyn. But listen, if you ever get a chance to go to Alabama, to Birmingham, Carolyn Coleman is the hostess with the mostest. So if you got to travel down there, look her up. She will take care of you. I spent my birthday last year in Alabama with Carolyn, and we had a ball. We really did. She was
We had a good time.
We had a
really good time.
We had a good
Yeah.
time. She was a really good hostess. So thank you so much, Carolyn. And
Oh,
Carolyn,
you're more than
Florida,
welcome.
she always, I love cutting up with her. We've had an opportunity. So next time Carolyn comes to Atlanta, I'm going to have to tell y'all she coming, because if you looking for some laughter and you want to have a good time, Miss Carolyn Coleman is the one. Okay, that's the one. All right. All right. Jacqueline Jackson, you are on my screen next. Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
Hey, everyone. What a wonderful evening. I am so excited. I am so excited. My name is Jacqueline Jackson Homer, and Homer is my birth name. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm just like trying to compose my cheeks from going up so hard. But I am titling my portion, the name of it is I Love Royal Blue and Green. That's what it's titled. And I chose that because I've been in the company of so much royalty, and you all have too, as we are this evening. And I can't wait to share it. And I am born in Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut, but my family is from Valdosta, Georgia, and I'm here in Atlanta. And another piece of my foundation is from Virginia. So I'm excited to take this journey.
Thank you so much. I met Jacqueline many, many years ago when I used to work at the Kroger company. She was the salad lady. And I listen, she has a story behind it. I'm gonna let her tell that. We're gonna come back to her, but she is the salad lady. Okay. So if you're in Georgia, if you're in Atlanta area, she is the salad lady, and she'll share more with that. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. All right, Jacqueline Cox, you are on my screen next. Miss Listen Linda herself is in the building.
Hey y'all. I wasn't gonna come on the screen because I wasn't my best self.
That's okay.
Okay.
You missed the speech. I made a whole speech before everybody came on, and like everybody has to be on camera.
Okay,
'Cause
yeah.
you're
So
all
I
beautiful. You're
missed
all
the
beautiful.
memo, but I am a person who follows the rules. So I just made sure that I took my bonnet off and I wiped my
Thank you.
face and I got on here with y'all tonight. So hello everybody. For y'all who don't know me, I am Jacqueline Cox, aka Listen Linda. It's so good to meet you all. Like and see, well, I know some of y'all know some of me. But for the ones who don't, to see you guys' beautiful faces, I am from Illinois. I'm a native of Chicago. Um, I'm a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur. I do it all, child. Just ask me something to do. If I don't know how to do it, I Google and figure it out. I'm a jack of all trades. Um, I'm a comedian in my afterlife, but we ain't gonna talk about that. Okay, so I actually I just got off my show, which is Listen Linda, and we were doing Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we did an honorary for one of the co-authors of The Waiting Room, Elena Maria's sister who passed from domestic violence. And that was actually a part of my chapter, and this is called The Me You See, because a lot of times people will be going through things and they'll be suffering in silence, and you don't know just by looking at them what they're going through daily. Like a lot of people, I know y'all looking like, oh, she's just so beautiful, but they don't understand that I go through every single day in pain. I'm in bed right now because I'm having a lupus flare. I'm fighting lupus, thyroid cancer, fibromyalgia, and now fibroids. And you would not know that from looking at me. You won't know that I went through domestic violence my whole from 13 to 22. You wouldn't know that I suffer from miscarriages and just foster parents, rape, neglect, abuse, in and out of the homes, in and out of foster homes, homeless. You wouldn't know this story just by looking at me and just seeing me. So that's why I titled my chapter "The Me You See." I'm a 5-time best-selling author. All my books and my family's books, we have 13 books published by PayPro V Publishing. All of them are bestsellers. I'm a visionary of my own anthology, The Women of the Waiting Room, anthology and devotional, both international bestsellers in the same week. And I will continue my streak of writing. And I have the magazine, you guys know, and the podcast and the radio app out. And I will continue this streak and continue rolling with PayPro V Publishing, because that is the publisher that's going to get you where you need to be. So I appreciate you. I appreciate this platform. I appreciate meeting all of you. Jacinda, you from Chi-Town, that's my girl. If you guys need anything at all, graphic wise, you want to be a part of the magazine, you guys already know where to find me. Y'all got my number. Hit me up. I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, girl. I'm looking to see how much money I got in my account to see if I can pay you for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You know, I'm the one, I put you a plug in, baby.
Yes, thank you. I take you everywhere. And Jacinda and Jewel are sisters. So you have Jacinda from Chi-Town, Jewel from Chi-Town, and Cecilia from Chi-Town. All right, y'all. All right. It's a lot of Atlanteans in the house, though. All right, we here.
Oh, and Laquita ain't lied about Miss Carolyn, because I just left Atlanta with my family, and we was because we got awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, and Miss Carolyn Coleman drove 4 hours to come and support me at the event and had me laughing the whole time. I couldn't breathe at the table. She had me laughing so hard. So
They just cut up. It didn't make no sense how much they cut up. They just cut up.
You were cutting up too, but we ain't gonna talk about you because you the lady of the hour. So we gonna leave this. We gonna leave this for another talk. But they were cutting up, y'all. But we had a good time. So Carolyn is the one for a good time.
Laughter, laughter, laughter. Laughter will get you through a whole lot of things. Keep you awake. It'll keep you. It will just get you through a whole lot of things. DeAndre, you are on my screen. You're the last one to introduce. Hey, cousin. You're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for all the technical difficulty. I think I was driving at the time, so it wouldn't let me in. And hello to you, my dear, lovely cousin.
Hello,
and hi, ladies. How are you guys? What am I saying?
Introduce yourself, where you're from, and the title of your chapter.
Okay. I am DeAndre Blake. I am a native of Atlanta, the west side of Atlanta. Born and raised Georgia. Atlanta is all I know. Haven't been anywhere else. And I haven't titled the chapter. I'm embarrassed to say I'm still it's just unfolding here. But it's a lot of me. I want to uncover, not enough time or whatever space to uncover it. So I haven't figured out what I want to call it quite yet.
Okay.
But I will, I will, with your help, of course, because you've been most helpful and instrumental. And the reason why is because you are just that person. You're very inspirational. I'm an English major in college. That was my major. And I always thought I wanted to write, but never really knew how to let my voice be heard or how to get it out in the open or speak. I could speak, but I don't know how to write it, or I wasn't confident in writing it. And just spending time with you have definitely inspired me or influenced me to just really want to move forward and let my voice be heard, whatever voice that is that God has blessed me with.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. Listen, y'all are good for a girl's ego. I got to tell you, you're good for my ego. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is an early birthday present. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. DeAndre is my cousin from my dad's side, and Shanita is my cousin from my mom's side. So DeAndre and I were at an event earlier this year, or maybe was it last year? I think like last November. And we were, she was across, and I was like, that lady looked familiar. I think we cousins. I think we related. So I went over across the room and I was like, are you a Parks? And she looked at me, she said, we have to be related. You have my grandmother's mouth. And we start talking, and our dads are cousins, first cousins. So our grandmothers were sisters. So, hey, we gonna rock till the wheels fall off. Isn't that how they say it? We're gonna roll till the wheels fall off. I think that's how they say it. Right. Right. So thank you so much for saying yes. So I know it took a while to get all of these introductions in, but it was important because the people who are gonna listen to this, they're gonna get to know each of you. They're gonna be able to follow you, and they're gonna say, okay, I can't wait. I want to hear Jewel's story. I want to hear Jacinda's story. I want to hear Cecilia's story. So getting to know, this is just the first leg of who you are in this Our Journey from Girls to Women anthology. So I want to get into your stories. Now, I don't want you to reveal too much of it, because those of you who know me, you know what the people got to do. What do you got to do, Jacqueline?
Read it.
They got to buy the book. They got to buy the book. They got to buy the book. Absolutely. They got to buy the book.
And you want them to buy it from you.
And you want them, right. They're not buying it from me. They're going to buy it from you. So they're going to be buying because they want to know your story. So Dr. Patricia, they want to know your story. So you are going to sell the book. So they want to know your stories. So I want to get into a conversation with you about what I've read and what I know about you. And I'm gonna start with Cecilia because she got on that necklace and pretty orange, and that's family. So I'm gonna pick on her right now. So when Cecilia, when I read your story, when I asked it, let me go back. When you read Jeremy's story in Our Journey from Boys to Men, Cecilia, you were on the road. I remember that, and you called me and you was like, "Hey, I'm reading this story. I'm reading this book, and if you do one for women, I want in." I want in. And I was like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I said, I think I will. I had not decided at that time, but I said, I think I will. And
Yes.
I was like, wow. And so you was like, I want in. I want in.
Yes.
So
Yes.
because the men don't share. Men
No.
don't share. So to get those men to share their stories was amazing. It was amazing. But Cecilia, so when I read your story, what was the hardest part about your story to write?
It had to be about my father. Him, just not ever feeling love from him. That I think that was, yeah, that's still there. I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah.
That part was the hardest. Yes.
When I earlier I said everybody's story, I could see some of myself in the story, and not having my dad there, especially when I was going through a lot of the things that I was going through. And then those times when I felt like he had an opportunity to be there for me, he wasn't. Now my dad is a part of all, he'll be on all of my interviews, and those of you who've heard my dad and who've been in the room with him, he'll say, y'all, she didn't get this from me. She didn't get all of this knowledge. She didn't get it from me, because he acknowledges that he wasn't there. So, and so when I read that part, I was like, wow, there were a lot of parts in there for me that was tugging, and it actually gave me more of an understanding of who you are. Because listen, she's a great person. She's a great person. But sometimes you don't understand why people are the way they are. And then you read their story and you go, okay, the compassion, it doesn't just fall down out of the sky.
No,
So,
not at all.
so I think my favorite part, and I'm not going to share the whole thing, my favorite part was after you took Jeremy to visit your dad, and you acknowledge how you had grown after you left with that conversation, and you was like, you know what, I thought about it, it's like, thank God that I'm not where I was, because it would have been a whole different conversation.
It would have been a whole different
failure to communicate.
Yeah.
We would have had a failure to communicate. So if you could give a message to your dad, what would that message be? If you could say something to him right now, like one word, what would it be?
I forgive him. And I have to say that because I understand that he had it very difficult himself coming up. Once I put that into that perspective, I see he had it really rough. He had it really rough coming up, which led him to his best friend, which was that bottle. And he just could not. I don't know, maybe in his own way, he loved us. I feel like, my older sisters, got to know him better than I did, because I was only 4 when, when he and my mom broke up. So I have no memory of him living with us, other than seeing him, like I said, in my aunt's house. But yeah, it's just, I understand that he did not have the capacity. So
yeah. Yeah. I
You
like
can't,
that.
yeah, you just can't hold that against somebody if they just didn't have it. And that's what it is.
I like that you said that because some people don't understand that. It's this is what happened, and the book stops right there without any compassion of, well, what was their life like? Because I always
Right.
like to think, well, what was their life like?
Right.
Because we all got to where we are because of where we came from.
Yeah.
And then there were choices we made. Some people chose to go one way, some people chose to go another way.
Yeah.
And I know one thing, if I would have just made a left, a half of a centimeter left, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Absolutely.
Because
That's all it took.
I did some dumb stuff.
Oh yeah.
I made some dumb choices and got myself into some situations that only God could have got me out of. And
Praise
but
the
God,
Lord.
because God knew that I ain't have sense enough to get my own self out of some of those situations. So
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Listen, you
Yes.
guys don't have to purchase the book so you can read Cecilia's chapter. And you know what? It's funny because as I was reading your chapter and the title is so fitting. The title is so fitting because sometimes we like, okay, wow, how did I get out of it? Because God was there the whole time. Through it all, he was there. Through it all.
Absolutely. And it just takes to just look back and just see, wow, it wasn't me. I know it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Thank
He
you
had
so
my
much.
back. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Thank you.
Jacinda. Unsolicited advice, man, I love it. I love it. So as I was reading your story, Jacinda, I got tickled because there was one part in there, and we're not going to go into the whole story, but there's one part in there when you're giving advice to your sons. And that one part I fell out laughing because when I do my mentoring program to young ladies, and my coaching, I do coaching and development, communication coaching. And there's one part when I say, listen, your boyfriend is not your husband.
Yes.
So there's a part in your book when you say your girlfriend is not your wife.
Yes.
So let's get that straight. Let's put things into its proper perspectives. So I got so tickled when I read that because your book, Unsolicited Advice, is a letter, is basically a letter to your sons. But in every single one of those lessons, I was like, I could see my life. I could see pieces of my life. And that advice is not just to your sons. That advice can be to any one of us because we're not too old to learn. So why did you decide to write the letter to your sons?
I decided to write the letter because when COVID happened, there were so many people that I knew who were passing away, people getting sick and just dying suddenly. And I was a new empty nester. So I was a little concerned that will I have enough time to share all these things with my children? I don't know why my screen is going in and out. And so that's what was the motivator. Like, let me make sure I've told them things because we know how we've raised them. But now they're young adults. They're in their 20s and they're dating. And, you know, unlike my experience, I did not want them to get in relationships with family members, in-laws included, and not know how to defend themselves or like you said, these girlfriends, you want to be wifey, you can't be wifey. And so it was important for me to just give them those little pieces of pearls of wisdom that I've learned. And you know how the old people say, you always say, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And they say, keep living. So
never say never. Don't say what you won't do. Yes. So which one out of your children, you have 3 sons, right?
I have 3 sons.
Which one of your sons do you think will be more receptive? You don't have to call any names, but which one would be more receptive than the others? Or which one be like, okay, here go mama. You know how the kids, they get grown, they be like, okay, we don't know nothing. We just raised them. We don't know nothing. So which one do you think will be more receptive with the advice?
You know what? Honestly, I think all of them will take pieces of it better than the other. because I'm here in Texas with my oldest son. He's married. I have my first grandchild. And so the marriage part, he got the girlfriend part down because he married his. The other two will take another piece, you know, differently. So they're all very different. But that, you know, that marriage thing is a big thing for me. And even at my son's wedding, you know, I gave a speech and people were like, oh, that speech was so wonderful. I've never heard a mother let go of their sons the way you do. And it's because that's what the Bible says, to leave and cleave. And I haven't raised them to be my mini husband. I haven't raised them to be a substitute. I've raised them to be men of God and hopefully prepared them to be husbands, not from a man's perspective, but from a woman's perspective. I can't raise them to be a man. So I'm hoping all three of them take a little bit of mama's advice.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I know there will be a lot of people who will be receiving that advice. So I appreciate it. And I'm tickled because Jewel and Jacinda, again, are sisters, and neither one of them have read the other story. So,
and nor did we discuss it. We didn't discuss
right.
what the other person was
so
writing.
this is Jewel's first time hearing a little bit of insight to your story. And I haven't shared with either one. So Jewel, I haven't shared anything with Jewel about you, Jacinda, and I haven't shared anything with Jacinda about Jewel. So I'm keeping it quiet. So I haven't shared. So thank you so much. I think she had to go. Oh, she fixing her screen. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm excited about that. Oh my goodness. Shanita, I'm coming to you, girl. I'm coming to you, Shanita. So there are stories. How many of you guys have read stories that were really hard to read because you were consumed with emotion because of the story? How many of you? I was that way when I read your story, Shanita. I was, and so I'm not gonna get into it, not gonna get deep into it, but when I read your story, the part that when you took him home to meet your grandmother, and your grandmama said, that man is the devil, you need to go home to your mama and leave this man alone. And you said, what'd you say? You said, I didn't listen. How many of us get our parents tell us stuff and we don't listen, and we end up having to find out the hard way? If only we had listened. I know my mama used to have this thing that says the more I teach you, the dumber I get. And she's like, okay, I keep repeating. Who the crazy one, me or you? Because I keep repeating the same thing over and you're not getting this lesson. So one of us is dumb. It must be me. It must be me. And so I didn't understand what she said. I just thought my mama was crazy, you know. I didn't understand what she meant until I got older and was like, oh, that's what she meant. Okay. So Shanita, your story, oh my goodness. Guys, you guys are going to have to read her story. But what was the hardest part about your story to write? And I'm sitting here, I was like, man, I'm trying to get into it without getting into it. You know what I'm saying? What was the hardest part of your story to write? And before you answer that, just so that you guys know, I'm going to share this part. Shanita survived being shot 9 times by her husband, 10 times by her husband. She said 10 bullets went into her body, 10 and 10. So that alone. And I knew a little bit of your story. I knew your story a little bit because your dad had shared some of it with me. And but when I read your story, it was nothing. He couldn't have shared, because you shared the intimate details. He couldn't have shared that with me. But when I read it, I was like, I don't even know if my heart was beating when I was reading it. because I was like, my mouth fell open, and because this is the from day one of our conversation, it's been on a high, Shanita, jovial, going, moving here, going there, take this. This was not a woman who, no one could have told me that this woman survived being shot 10 times by her husband, her ex-husband. So I'm telling you, we don't know what we can go through until we know somebody has been through something worse. So when we think, I think I'm going through some things, going through lupus and all of the things I go through, and I know what my life is like on a daily basis. And then I meet Shanita, who my own family, and I'm like, okay, where was I when this was happening? Why didn't I know that? I think I heard it, but we're all in our lives. So what was the hardest part of your story to write, Shanita?
I think the hardest part is writing, knowing that I went through it, knowing that I had a friend that started a domestic violence program. I was on the board in Clayton, Georgia. Just knowing the things, but you tell yourself, oh, it's not like that. And I think writing it and knowing that I could have prevented it, was the hardest part. And I think once I wrote it that day, reading it was like, ooh, like it took me back that it took me almost 3 weeks. And I told you I wrote it, but I just didn't know like how to process. And I had to pray, because I was like, I'm every need. And just seeing it on paper made me think, like, I thought it was hard, but it's something I had to do, because if somebody asked me, I'd be like, girl, my ex-husband shot me 10 times and I'm good. Like, it's good to talk about it, but I think it brings realization to you when you actually write it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it gives you confirmation that you're okay, because my biggest issue was I was looking at all the ladies' pictures when you start putting it up on the book. And I was like, oh, yeah. No, this is a little too extreme for this kind of book. And I had to tell myself, but you don't know who you're going to help. You've been told that you can help people. I did a few speaking events for domestic violence, and I still didn't get it. But I think the hardest part was being able to look at it when I wrote it and realize that I went through it. But it gave me like good hopes that most people in my situation would have gave up a long time ago. So that was the hardest part, reading it. But I'm glad that I read it, wrote it.
Well, girl, I want to say, I remember when we were talking about your story, and I've said this to several of you. I've said it. You've got to unpack it. I know most of you have heard me say this, and it's gonna be some anxiety. I think we talked about that. You're gonna go through some anxieties. You're gonna go through some emotions. It's gonna be hard, because you're gonna be reliving some things that you thought you got over. But once you get it out, you don't have to put it back. You don't have to pack it again. And so I remember sharing with you when I was talking to Jacqueline, and she was doing her book, Mountains Can't Rise. So Jacqueline Cox is the woman that wrote the book, Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. And I remember when she first sent me her manuscript to read. And so I started going through, and I know she won't mind me sharing this, but I started going through and read it, and I had questions. And she was like, no, she calls me Mama Quita. She was like, no, I can't. Can you just fill it in? And I was like, but it's not my story. And I said, but you have to either do one or two things. You have to either decide that you don't want to, you can't do this right now, or you're going to have to answer those questions. And so my encouragement was, step away if you have to, but don't abandon the process. And so it took a minute, and it was very emotional for her, and it did open up some things, and it was triggering for her. And so she did step away, but she didn't abandon the process. And her book has been on the Amazon top seller, 100 top bestseller list for over a year now. And so she unpacked it, and there's so much more room when you get it out, so much more room. So thank you for trusting me to help you get through that. And the more you tell it, the more you'll be able to tell it. It's one thing to tell your stories. That's why I'm a proponent of people writing their stories, because you can tell your story. I can share my story all day, but when you write it, you have to be purposeful with it. When you're writing it, you've got to read what you're writing. You've got to keep going through it, and then it's going to affect you. And once you get it out, then you know that your healing will begin. And so everybody doesn't have a trauma story. Everybody doesn't have a trauma story. There are people who have great stories, but we all have a story, no matter what it is. So I'm glad you're here. I am glad you're here. I'm glad that you came and we had a chance to spend some time together. And we hadn't really spent time together yet, though. But I'm so glad that you're here. So thank you so much for saying yes. And listen, you have to get the story. You have to get the story. These stories are amazing. They are amazing, amazing, amazing. So thank you so much, sweetheart. So Nikki, Ninotchka, that's my friend Nikki. Nikki, how you doing, girl?
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much again for being here. And guys, thank you for hanging in, but this is necessary. And you might not feel like it right now, but when you go back and look at it, it's necessary. It is necessary. We're doing our own brand of healing right now. Okay. And we're helping each other heal. So Nikki, so it's Ninotchka, but she's Nikki to me, y'all. I've known Nikki for a long time, long time. Nikki, thank you so much for your story. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So we're not gonna dig into it deep, but Nikki, I love how when you started your story, you was like, life was good. My childhood was great. It was a perfect, when you said it, I thought about the Cleavers, Leave It to Beaver, and all those who have the two parent households and everything's great. Mom's the homemaker, dad goes out, dad comes home, swoops up the baby, and all is right with the world. That's what I thought about when I read your story. And Nikki was like, that was my life. Everything was great. And then tragedy struck. And when tragedy struck, things just kind of did a nosedive. So Nikki, thank you so much for sharing that. And I know your story. Even with that, there were some parts that I didn't know. And when I read it, I was like, oh, wow. And it just, I feel like I've known all of you guys forever now because I know your stories. And I'm grateful. I don't take that lightly. I'm grateful because I feel like God has given me a gift to be able to be in this seat right now so that I can make a difference and hear your stories and help you take those stories from a thought to a realization. So I'm grateful and I'm humbled by that. Nikki, what was the hardest part about writing your story?
The hardest part, I guess, bringing up those memories and having to feel emotion, feelings, reliving that, and at sometimes feeling like some of the things were left open or unanswered, quote unquote. But I think for the most part, it was just going back in time, mentally and emotionally, and because where I tried, like I mentioned earlier, I go on because I try not to hold so much on the mistakes or the trauma or the tragedies or whatever, because they happen to us as humans. But I feel like just having to go back through those memories, that might have been the hardest part.
I appreciate you and just like Shanita, not going into so much detail, but I appreciate your transparency and your honesty. in sharing some of the things that you went through. You know, it broke my heart too when you talk about, you know, your mom. Now your dad passed and your mom had to get a job. She had to go to work, and then she had to get 2 jobs, and then your dynamics changed because now you had to go to some relatives, and then you were not treated right. And so that was heartbreaking because here it is, you've lost your dad, and then the people who are supposed to be family. And I think Tracy said that earlier, sometimes your family don't treat you right. Your family is supposed to be the people that's supposed to have your back and help you. They didn't treat you right.
Correct.
So that was heartbreaking. That part was heartbreaking for me. And because it charts a path for us.
It does.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know you're going through a lot. Nikki just had a loss in her family. So thank you so much for even being here. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I know it's getting late. If you have to drop off, I understand. Jewel, I understand. And Miss Mary had to drop off. I understand that. Thank you. We'll talk. We'll talk. All right. Thank you. I want to go to Macia. I keep saying Messiah, girl. I keep calling you everything. Macia, Messiah. You're
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, girl, from pieces to peace.
Yes, and it is, I say Macia, but it is Messiah, because I am the one that creates my reality.
All right.
So, it is both. Some people, you know, pronounce it Messiah, some pronounce it Macia, but it's the same.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I wasn't pronouncing it wrong, girl. Because I'm like, we've been knowing each other for a long time. And Messiah has a book, a children's book called A World Without Me. Oh my goodness. Imagine what the world would be like if it did not have our contributions.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful book. Beautiful, awesome. So Macia, your story from piece to pieces. Let me tell you, the part that got me, you know how they say you had me from hello. The first part of it, when you were born and your aunt, I think, found you lodged between the mattress, and you were what, 4 months old?
3 months.
3 months old, and you could have suffocated. And your mom, teenage mom, just left you there. And I don't even know how long you were there. And then you went, your grandmother sent you to live with family in Florida. Was it Florida?
Well, I went to live with family in Georgia. And then at the age of 6, my mom just came out the blue and was like, "You're coming with me and I'm moving to Florida." So that was like the pieces of the puzzle. You know, my life was already in pieces, but I think the pieces were kind of thrown and shattered and scattered about when that happened. Things really, went everywhere in order for it to come back together now, to bring those pieces together.
One of the parts when, and of course we went to school together. So when you were telling the stories about getting into fights with the boys at school, I was like, I didn't know that. And there was a teacher, we all have that one teacher, Tracy, we all have that one teacher that we remember that makes a difference in our life. But this teacher was like, listen, if you get into one more fight, I'm gonna whip your tail myself.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, that was the daddy.
Yeah.
That was there. That was the daddy that made the difference.
Yeah.
That made the difference. Say, okay, wait a minute. Okay, let me stop this because I'm getting ready to get into some real trouble. But that was the turning point. That was the turning point. So I appreciated that. And then you talk about and so how the stories connect. Cecilia, you talk about in your book what was the turning point for you to get serious about education. And so your story connects in that way with Macia, Messiah, where she gets serious with her education. And when it's time to go to college, it was like, okay, well, you don't have enough, your grades are not good enough. And she's like, well, what I have to do? And it's kind of like I started from the bottom down here.
Yeah.
And then you worked your way up, and I love that. And I love that. And I thought about your story, Cecilia, when I read her stories, because those connect. So what was the hardest part? What was the hardest part of your story to write, Messiah?
It wasn't a hard part to write. What it was is like everybody is saying, once you really put it down on paper and you go back and you kind of start thinking about different things that happen, and it brings those memories. You know, we kind of like somebody was saying, you talk about it, but then you don't really think about it and go down deep to pull up those feelings and those emotions. And so once I was reading it to my children and others to kind of, you know, see what I needed to add or take away, because, you know, I had almost 9,000 words. And so I had to break it down, you know, and everything. So the thing that got me the most with it, though, is at my mom's funeral, I wrote her a poem, and it was, she could only give me what she had. And so after doing everything and doing the reading and writing now, it just made me love my mother even more, because it was a time in my life when I hated my mom, you know, for everything that I had gone through. And so as I got older and wiser and started seeing things and things that she had gone through and stuff like that, it just made me even appreciate and love her even more, you know, after I wrote it and read it. And I was like, wow, you know, I really love my mom, you know, and I couldn't say that several years ago. So I think that was the hardest part for me. And then, you know, me having peace within myself, because when you go through a lot of things, you know, you're torn. And so even though I had children and teaching and things like that, you know, you live life every day and you're living it. But like you say, nobody really knows what's going on, you know, on the inside. So that, you know, it really brought me even more peace in writing it.
I you know what, I love it. And I'm my heart is just full because your story, you and I'm like, I'm trying not to share it all. When you talk about going from a happy, healthy environment to going from thriving to being deprived and all those things. And you talk about gaining 40 pounds in just a matter of a couple of months.
No, it was 68. It was in 6 months, I gained 68 pounds. So food became my friend, because like I said, my mom had taken me from a loving environment and, you know, placed me with her, which was not stable and was very, very abusive.
The road that you've taken from there to where you are now has been amazing. And everything that you've accomplished, you know, and again, if you're listening to this video, you can do anything that you want to do. God has already given us the ability to do everything that he needs us to do. So there is no such thing. Everybody, all of us have been through something. We've all been through something, and our lives actually do connect. And so, Messiah, thank you so much for sharing that. Listen, you guys have really got to get this book. You have to purchase the book, Our Journey from Girls to Women. And these stories are absolutely amazing, amazing. They are tear jerkers. They will make you laugh. They will make you cry. They will have you thanking God that, you know what, hey, I thought my life was bad. But here's the upside to that. None of us are where we used to be. None of us. And you just said, Messiah, what Cecilia said about her dad. I don't know what he went through. His life wasn't great. He didn't have all those things. And I feel the same way. My mom was an alcoholic. And so she did the best she could with what she knew how to do. So I understand that. Jacinda, go ahead. You had a question.
I was just gonna say, it wasn't a question, but just with everyone's stories, I tell my sons, you don't always have to live it to learn it.
Absolutely.
And here is a way that you can learn some lessons from other women, whether you're male, female, old, young, whatever walk of life. You don't have to live it to learn it. And I tell the Lord, Lord, I don't want to live it to learn it. I can get it without going through it.
Exactly. Hey, I don't have to drink alcohol to know it ain't good for me. I don't have to smoke crack to know it ain't good for me. So you can see it. I remember my seeing the grooves, how you have the grooves in the pavement. I used to tell my children, somebody has already hit their head on there, so you don't have to. You don't have to be the one. Somebody has already done it for you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Messiah. Dr. Patricia. Thank you guys for your patience. This is amazing. So, oh my goodness. I'm not being dramatic, guys. I really am not. These stories, when you read them, you guys are going to have the same reaction that I have. Dr. Patricia, when I read your story, you had me, and again, I'm trying not to share so much, but you had me when you start off by talking about the trip to your mother's house. And I ended up a couple of weeks ago in the emergency room.
Wow.
With some of those same symptoms. And I remember when I was at the Mayo Clinic, the doctor told me that stress will bring about a flare. So you have to, my doctor said, if you're accustomed to walking 2 miles, walk a half a mile. Because you're not she said, life as you know it is over.
Right.
So you're going to have to make some adjustments. When I read your story, and I was like, oh, wow. And I read your story, I think it was a couple of days after I had gone to the emergency room.
Wow.
So when I tell you the stories connect, and listen, if you are dealing with some stress, it is not good. My nurse Carolyn is on the phone. Is on the on the call, and I pull her ear all the time. I have cried on her shoulders more times than little. She has walked me through some of my medicine. Miss Mary Beal. I listen, this is really an opportunity for networking, guys. It really is. So the doctor told you sometimes you just got to let people go. Not in those many words, but
yeah.
You got to let people know.
Yeah.
When the doctor tell you, sometimes you got to tell people where they need to go and let them go. Because if not, then you're going to be laying on this table again, and it's not going to be pretty.
That's right. So true.
So what was the hardest part about writing your story?
I think the hardest part was just reliving it all. And then realizing that I had to pull back the layers, because each time you pull back a layer, you see something else that you know about it, but yet you didn't really dive into it before. So each time I pulled back and turned the page to write something else, it's like it brought back those feelings that you actually felt during that time.
When you talked about, I got tickled. When I'm telling you, it's some funny parts, it's some tearjerker parts. I got tickled when you said, because we do that all the time. You was on the bus and you heard the people talking, and you were ear hustling. So, so she was on the bus and some people were having a conversation, and she was like, okay, wait a minute, this sounds like something that might benefit me. And you took notes and you went to the appointment yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us, how was it going back to school after all that time?
It was hard. It really was, because a lot of things, like I said, back in the 60s, I'll just tell the ladies that because it's no secret. I got pregnant at 16. And when you get pregnant back in the 60s, once they found out, you had to leave. You had to leave school. And unlike they have now, they didn't have programs back then where you could still go to school part-time or at another facility. You just went home and that was it. Your life was just done. GED programs, they didn't have that back then. So it was just a thing where you just, you had to wait. So then finally, when they did have that, you started taking classes, and I just was on this thing about I need to go do this, need to go do that. And you saw on yourself where how often that was pushed away.
Yes, yes. Because there are going to be people in our lives who think we don't need to do anything more than we're doing. And sometimes it's from fear, or sometimes they think, okay, if you do this, you're going to change, and it's going to change everything. And maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it's for the better. It's for betterment. So there are some people don't want you to do no more than they doing.
Right.
If you start doing something and they not doing nothing, it's going to be a whole problem.
Yes.
A whole problem. So I love how you fought the good fight. It's like, I remember, and when you were talking about school, and as I was reading it, and you said you came in the door and you heard the pages of your book being torn, that hurt my heart, because those books were expensive. Because when I went, I was upset that I had to get a book, and you couldn't borrow one, because then the next class, it was a different edition, and you couldn't use it. And I was like, how dare he tear apart? I'm like, I was reading it, I was getting upset. I was like, wait a minute, those books expensive.
Yes.
But the stories of it's a journey. It's a journey. Everything that we've gone through has brought us to where we are, good, bad, or ugly. It has brought us to where we are. So listen, if you're listening to this, and this is a longer broadcast than I usually do, but it's going to be worth it. These stories are simply amazing. And Dr. Patricia, thank you so much for sharing. There's so much more in there. Miss Carolyn Coleman, Miss Gentry.
I'm back.
Miss Gentry, I love it. Now, Miss Gentry, when I was reading your story, and so Carolyn has a book series called Gentry's Journey. It's Gentry, and so there are 5 books in the series, right, Carolyn? Yes. And so we are, PayPro V is redoing the series for her, and so we're almost done. I think we have one more book in the series before we can release the whole series out. So a whole revamp, recover design, the whole 9. But listen, you guys have to connect with Carolyn and order the series, Gentry's Journey series. Gentry is a hot mess, okay? A funny hot mess, okay? So Carolyn, and she has the personality of Carolyn. a little bit. So Carolyn, when I was reading your, it's funny. I think several people have said it when you're talking about family dynamics and growing up. It was funny to me how I can tell from your childhood that you had a carefree childhood, that you enjoyed. I could tell you enjoyed playing, and I take it that you were just as serious as you are now when you were a child, because I was laughing when you were saying I read your personality in it when you were saying that talking about the sticky bushes. Them they some roses, but them sticky bushes. They was making marks on you, and then the teacher's name. Yeah, what'd y'all call her sister? What?
It was Miss Sister Gant.
Miss Sister, and her mama said, y'all gonna have to call her one or the other. What did they tell you to call it? It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny to me, but it was confusing. All the children called her Miss Sister Gant. And so I was, how you go back home and Miss Sister Gant this, Miss Sister Gant that. And so Mom was like, she's either got to be Mrs. Gant or Sister Gant. She can't be both. And I just kind of looked with my head to the side because, back then children didn't ask why. We didn't, okay? And I was like, well, who changed her name?
That what she told us her name was.
So And then it was hard for me to process which one she's going to be what day. All right. So is she going to be Miss Gant? Is she going to be Sister Gant? How am I going to do this? I mean, you got to think about it. I probably was 4, so that was a lot of information on my head. So, but, and I still think about it to this day. And I just didn't like kindergarten for that reason, not the reason of her name, but the sticker bushes. It's just like no one ran into the sticker bushes but me. And then I have to be a day or 2 out of class or school or her kindergarten, and then go back and we start this process all over again. So kindergarten was not my favorite thing. So it just got to be as I grew older, I was like, what was that about? What, because I want to know the lesson in the event that took place. I can't figure one out. I just can't. Okay. But I did. I enjoyed running with the kids, but why was I the one with the sticker bushes? I don't understand. I just don't understand why my legs were attracted to those sticker bushes. So
well, I love the humor in your story. And then you talk about how, you grow up with cousins and friends, and then you were friends when you grew up, and then now you became the source of conversation for some reason. So you get the funny looks, and people have outgrown each other, and things change. So as you grow up, things change, relationships change, people change. And I like how you put those dynamics, because even in the midst of all these things changing, you still have to be who you are and keep going no matter what the changes are. So I like the dynamic that you brought to your story.
okay, with the cousins, you play together, you sleep together, you eat together, so you're more like sisters and brothers. And even though some of our cousins, we would go see them on Sundays and we do the same thing. We play together, eat together. And then it seemed like as people start moving, or their parents were buying homes in different communities, not that they were that far away, it just seems as though they found a new crop of friends. And I could see personalities changing from, oh, that's just my cousin. What? No, that's not who I was last week. It just seems as though the connection was being lost from what I could visualize as a child. I was like, well, and I wanted to go back or stay in the fun-loving days. And that's why I semi-titled my chapter, I Grew Up. But it seemed like it was a force, but it wasn't. It was not a force growing up. It was that times were changing, and we were no longer those little kids that were so carefree. We had to make some decisions about high school, which reports to do, reading, growing, and then you get another crop of friends, and that kind of separates, doesn't really break the family up, but it separates the family the more. So it dilutes what you started off with. So I think I just loved having that closeness, that knit. It felt like protection. It just felt like your comfort. But as we grow up, there are going to be so many uncomfortable moments. You can't look behind or look to the side and see that face of familiarity that has always been there with you. So you have to start learning how to navigate situations really by yourself. Because I, as well, gained a new crop of friends, and we had some good times, but it just is different because it seems as though no one stayed that long. As soon as you get connected with someone, environments change, people move, and you're like, how does this work?
Yeah, you get comfortable, and then something else changes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I love the dynamics of your story. So listen, you guys have to get the book, because the more things change, it's always another level another level. That on the journey from girls to womanhood, I remember somebody posted something that said, "Hey, I'm ready as an adult. I'm ready to stay in a child's place. I'll do the dishes. I'll clean." Was that you, Cecilia, that posted that? Somebody did. I fell out laughing. It's like, I'm ready to stay in a child's place. I'll wash the dishes. I'll go outside and play and get out grown folk business. I will.
It wasn't
I
me,
will.
but I don't miss opportunities to play.
Okay.
I don't miss opportunities to
Yes,
play.
I'm ready to do it. I'm sorry for what I did or said. Sorry for my smart mouth and my being nosy. I'm sorry. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Yeah, we almost wrapping up. We just have 1 or 2 more stories and we're gonna get through with it. And this is gonna be amazing. It already is. So Desiree, wow, Desiree and I met in the pool. Desiree is one of my pool friends. And listen, so for my birthday, if you guys are not busy, I go to the pool Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock. You can find me in the pool and at the Aquatic Center from 8 a.m. to 9:30 on any given day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturday. So if you want to come and spend 55 minutes in the pool with me for my birthday, leading up to my birthday or anytime, you are more than welcome. So I'll be 55, so spend 55 minutes with me in the pool. It's a warm water pool. You'll love it. 55 minutes. And if you're available on a Saturday, I'll go on Saturday too. Won't I, Desiree? So Desiree, thank you so much for saying yes. So Desiree and I met in the pool, and she started telling me an experience that she had when she was in the military, and how women already, it's already a hard life sometimes for a woman in the military. But when she shared her story, I was like, you have got to be a part of our journey from girls to women. So I was completely floored by her story. I'm not going to get into it, but she almost ended. It almost cost her freedom at something that somebody else did, and she got the blame for it. But listen, never underestimate the power of your own copy. Right? Make sure you make your own copy. Somebody say, "Hey, give me a copy." Wait a minute. Let me make a copy of this. Never underestimate it. So Desiree, what was the hardest part about writing your story?
I guess probably the details, because as we were talking about before, you can tell your story to so many people several different times, but when you're actually writing it down or putting it in a book, you have to go through details. And it was so many details about the story that I had kind of put in the back of my mind or forgotten, that actually came to the forefront when I was putting it in book form, that I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe this happened, and it just brought me to tears sometimes. And just knowing back then how I didn't have any support, I just didn't have anybody to really talk to about what's going on that would understand. And, in the military, you have to be careful who you talk to, because, a lot of these people know each other, and, it was really, really hard.
Wow.
But yeah, I would say details, probably just going back and remembering details of things that happened, and just, I don't know. It was just, all I can say is thank God.
Yes, yes. So would you, if you had to do one thing over again, what would it be?
If I knew then what I know now, I probably would have stayed in the military. Yeah, I probably would have stayed. And always wanted to make it a career, but so many things was going on, I had to go. I just had to go, for peace of mind. But I always think about that, and I'm thinking, like, if I had one thing to do over, I probably would have stayed, knowing that the situation was gonna change. I wasn't gonna be in the same place the whole time. I was gonna move on, meet new people, have different things going on, So yeah.
Wow.
I
Thank you
try not
so
to
much.
dwell on it too much, but yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because sometimes we go through things and we make a decision in the moment. because of the emotion. And then it's like, okay, man, if I could have just gotten through this part, then maybe the rest of it would have been better. But we make decisions that we have to make for the right now. And I know some people have to leave. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to just talk quickly to Jacqueline and DeAntrice. We don't have all their stories yet, but we're just going to talk quickly to them, and then we're going to wrap it up. And so for you have to leave, thank you so much, Cecilia, and for everybody who was on. And we have to talk to Mary too. For all of you who stayed, thank you so much. Just going to talk to them for a couple of minutes. So we're going to be on a couple more minutes, and then we're going to be out. This has been amazing. It has really been amazing. And to think, if you're listening to this, this is just half of the ladies. There are 25 ladies plus me who are telling their stories in this book. And the person that's writing the foreword is Melissa Summers, radio personality Melissa Summers. So thank you so much for saying yes. And so if you have to leave, I understand. We're gonna send the link, and everybody have a chance to replay and share it out. So thank you so much, Desiree. I am looking forward to the story. You guys, you have to get the story. What she experienced in the military. For shame for the people who had hands in it, for shame. So DeAntrice, for your story, can you talk a little bit about your hardest part? I'm not going to ask you to get into your story, but the hardest part, what has been the hardest part in writing other than overthinking? You're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think overthinking. So I've been being coached by you. It's what you gave me the parameters of the story. So I'm like, okay. So the hardest part is making it all fit within the confounds of the 5,000 words and not going over, feeling like I'm not saying enough, or maybe I'm saying too much. Yeah. Going back and forth between those dynamics. And this is my first time penning my story to paper. So really coming to grips, did I really just share that? And accepting me at this moment in this journey from a girl to adulthood. Like being the grown, responsible, accountable woman to release this information to people in hopes and prayers that it's going to bless someone. Like I have felt the experiences and the lessons in life have truly blessed me and shaping the fabric of my womanhood.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait to read your story. I cannot wait to read your story.
Yeah, I gotta get it over because I was like, okay, I finished, but I'm going back. So I'm a little bit over right now. But then I was like, I left some out right there, and then I left some out right here. So I'm gonna get it to you. Then that way you'll just read it
and that's normal. It's normal. And I think I've had that conversation with almost everybody. I think Miss Mary was like, okay, I went over, or I'm just close to it. And I was like, don't worry about it. Just keep writing. It's okay. It's all right. And I've had Messiah. I was like, girl, okay. She went over like she was like 9,000. I was like, okay, so it's okay that you're over. So let's see if we can adjust it a little bit, because I'm like, listen, girl, that's a book. So and all of your stories are individual books. So this is really the introduction to your own book. So I want you to think of it that way. I want you to think of your chapter as your book, your solo book. Okay. So it's gonna be just absolutely amazing. So thank you, DeAntrice. I can't wait to see it. I'll be looking forward, quickly. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jacqueline, tell us about your story. What's been the hardest part about writing your story?
Well, the joy of the book and the meat of it is sharing about my salad business and how I figured out a savvy way to help my brother who was suffering with lupus. And I think I get caught up in the details of him, and then I get caught up in who I've been introducing it to. So I don't know if I'm being too long-winded, but I'm gonna just go ahead and type it out and then see, because I wrote it out, and then like after I finished, I felt good. Then I started saying, was that too much? So it's just the mixture of sharing the nutrients of it, who I've been introducing it to, and how it found me and how I found it, and how the blue rocks start coming up out of the ground. So it's just like I started thinking it was too messy. So
Overthinking.
yeah.
You're overthinking. And it's okay. It's okay. I keep writing, but send it because all of our stories connect. And your story, you're talking about what you do is beautiful, and how you started, because we all start doing Miss Mary does some health things. She's all about healthy living. And it started from somewhere. It didn't just fall out from the sky. It came from somewhere. Okay. She don't live in the watermelon capital of the world for nothing. Okay. And that's some good watermelon too up there, by the way. It really is.
Where does she live?
Miss Mary, tell her where you're from.
Cordele, Georgia, Southwest Georgia.
Oh, near Valdosta, right? Cordele?
Yeah, Cordele, on the way to Valdosta. It's about 90 miles away.
I remember seeing the sign. Okay.
Yes.
So we had to get some watermelon from there. I've had some plenty.
And I've had some of that watermelon in the salad.
Yes. Awesome. So thank you so much, Jacqueline. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get your stories. And listen, this book is going to be fabulous. Before we wrap up, we're going to talk to Miss Mary Beal. Miss Mary Beal, you wrote and so Miss Mary Beal, first of all, she has a television show. She is also a genealogist. She's a historian. And and when you read her story, you can tell that she is, because I love the way that she puts everything in order, and she lets you know it's like you're taking a walk through time. So I was able to take a walk through time with her. And so there were some parts of your story that was like, wow, I didn't know. The part about your brother, I didn't know that. I think we may have shared it, but not in that detail. I was like, wow, I love I love how you started with the children, and then not everybody was in the house at the same time. So this person, I love the detail. I love the detail. I'm a storyteller, so when I write, I want you to know what color shoes I had on, what color socks I had on, and I went down to the store, and when I was going to the store, I passed everything along the way. So I love your writing style, Miss Mary. What was the hardest part about writing your story?
The hardest part about writing my story, since I'm a young senior citizen and an old baby boomer, I got a lot of stories, okay? And so I had to break it down. So that's the reason what is in this book is just my first 25, 26 years of life. But even in that, I left out some details that I said, that's important. I should have included that. Or when trying to cut down on the length, I probably eliminated some things that should have remained. So that was the hard part, because I have so much. I'm not bragging. It's just that I had such a glorious life, and a full life, knowing both sides of my family and interacting with cousins. See, I don't have all of that in there about the interaction between the cousins growing up. And so it just, I left out some things that need to be in the book, because cousins are like siblings in some cases. And in our cases, that's what it was. And even their children to this day, we have that relationship. So.
Well, you have time to revamp a little bit if you want to, just a little teeny bit of time. while it's in the editing stage, you have
Oh,
a
okay.
little time while a couple
Oh,
people getting theirs in. So if you want to add and you know some things that you feel like would be beneficial or rewarding to the reader, you can go ahead, have at it. Have at it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'll go back and look at that and see if I can make it short. Because I had to, I mean,
you got a lot, you had
that
a glorious life and a lot to say. I can appreciate that. I met Miss Mary because I published a book for her called How to Live Well Past 100. The subject for that book was Mother Lucille Shazer. And I had an opportunity to meet Mother Shazer and spend a lot of time with her. I had an opportunity to travel several times to Cordell, Georgia, and spend time with Mother Shazer. And we did two book signings for Mother Shazer, where she was there and she sang, and we had a really good time. So she passed away at 109 years old. And she had all of her faculties. She knew everything and she knew who I was. And so I had a chance to visit with her just a couple of weeks before she passed away, and had a chance to travel back and forth several times over the span of a couple of years to visit with her. So I am blessed to have had that opportunity. So Mary Veal did an amazing job with that book. She did, writing that story. So listen, guys. It has been such a pleasure having you guys on, and I know it's been a long show. And for those who are listening, if you stay to the end, I promise you'll be rewarded. So start from the beginning and go to the end, and you'll meet all of these fabulous ladies who have written their stories from girls to women, and a lot of them are first-time authors. And it's a blessing to be able to help them take their stories from a thought to a realization. And I tell you, listen, if you have a story, and I know that you do, because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story, then think about writing your story, because there's somebody waiting on the other end of your story so they can get healing from their story. Okay. So, Dr. Patricia, Miss Mary, Shanita, Desiree, Messiah, Deantrice, Nikki, Jacqueline, Carolyn, and for everybody that was on and that had to leave, Jacinda, Jewel, Jacqueline Cox, and Cecilia, Dion is already here. I'm sorry. Denise had to leave. Thank you so very much for being here. And listen, connect with each other. Connect with each other. There are going to be so many opportunities that result from this book. So connect with each other. If there is anything I can do to help you, let me know. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, if you're listening to this video, there's anything I can do, you can reach out to me through PayProV Publishing, PAPROVI Publishing.com. I am on all things social media. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and listen, TikTok. If all else fails, you can Google me. I'm findable. Okay. So, ladies, it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, I love you,
Laquita,
and there's
let me
nothing
know.
you can do about it.
Let me know how many people come to meet you at the pool, and I'll drop off some salads.
Okay. Okay.